Hello.
Hello. We'll third time lucky.
Let's see if we get it this time.
Okay. Hopefully no feedback, and this will just go flawlessly, and I'll just post this onto Facebook once we're done.
Lovely. No worries.
All right. So thank you for joining me.
My pleasure.
And this is just going to be a chat. No
Absolutely.
at all.
Yep.
So this is Anne. And,
hello.
Anne's going to tell us about her experience. She's now had 3 surgeries.
Yeah, yes, my journey.
And so we're going to talk about all the different things, how you got diagnosed, where you went from there, and all the different things you've done up until now. And now is 4 weeks post your 3rd surgery.
That's exactly right. Yes. And a good one it was. Glad it's over.
Okay, so tell me about the start. When did you find out?
Well, it was 2 years ago, almost exactly 2 years ago. So it must have been Lipedema month. I'd say that's where it was. A story on the ABC about a woman who was struggling, and it said 1 in 10 women have this condition. So I looked because I also have PCOS. My daughter and I have PCOS. Polycystic ovarian syndrome, and that is a ratio of about 1 in 10 women have that condition. So I thought it was going to be about that. And I start reading, and they talk about legs and shapes, and I'm going, hang on a minute, this is a bit different. So I had to keep going and look further. And when I looked into this mysterious word lipedema and looked at photographs, I thought it was that classic light bulb moment where you see yourself. The thing I'd always struggled with is I tried to lose weight over the last 8 years or so, was that even though I was shrinking and I could see myself buying smaller clothes, my profile was still the same. It was a bit less of me, but I was still the same shape. And I could never see, in trying to embrace my curvy figure, and you'd look at other bigger women and you'd go, okay, I can do this. But I never saw this shape because I have had significantly large saddlebags and my hips. So I had lumps and bumps in places that you're not meant to have lumps and bumps. So it was a classic light bulb moment to discover that. And once I read a bit, you have to read a bit more and a bit more. So I went to my GP and I said, I think I have this condition. And like so many of us, when you say that to your GP, he had no idea, he hadn't heard of it. Thankfully, he was very open to it and was very supportive, and he has made a point of sharing within his practice and of learning and understanding and open to whatever I come up with. So I'm sort of pointing him in saying I need to do this and that.
That's so that was great. It's so unusual to have a GP who's that supportive.
Yes, yeah. So I have heard, I've been very fortunate in the people that I've come across have been very supportive and open to what I'm telling them. And they're open to saying, okay, I don't know about this, but I will learn. And that's been a terrific support. So after I self-diagnosed, essentially, based on pictures, and there was no other explanation that made sense. Then what I did was I found out about the lymphedema clinic at Macquarie University Hospital, and I went to them. I found that great in terms of confirming my concerns. And they went through a few things and gave suggestions, one of which was to increase my muscle mass. So they took I don't know what the machine's called, but they took a scan that said my muscle mass was at a certain percentage and I should increase it.
Was that a Sozo machine?
Oh, I'd like to tell you I know what the name of it is, but I don't. But it was interesting I don't have all the results anymore. I've misplaced that in the mountain of paperwork that comes with this once you start exploring it. So in that, I found out about you. They had your name down on the list, and that's how I found you. And so we started our relationship of having MLD, which I've found incredibly soothing or relieving a lot of the pain and the symptoms that I've had.
Can I just for people who don't know what MLD is,
Yes.
because you're a pro now.
Yes.
That's
Go ahead.
lymphatic drainage.
Yes, that's your thing. And for that, I'm eternally grateful. The first one I came on a Saturday, I remember. I had the treatment with you. And that evening I was pottering around in the kitchen doing things. And I thought, oh my God, my legs aren't hurting. And I walked up the stairs and my legs weren't hurting. It came back, but it was a noticeable difference that first visit that I thought, we're onto something here. So that was also amazing. I went to my physio then, and I took all my papers and I laid it out and I said, I'm not here for a treatment this time, but I want to tell you about this. I've got a great physio chiropractor who has always been very proactive in encouraging exercise, and he will always give you support exercises to reinforce the treatments that he gives. So in going to him and saying that the lymphedema clinic has recommended I increase my muscle mass, he rubbed his hands together with glee and he said, we can work on this. And he came up with this suggestion, which upon reflection is horrifying, but he said it's called German volume training. And it's a particular exercise technique that focuses on one muscle group at a time, and you do 100 reps in groups of 10. So you do 10 reps of an exercise at a certain weight or whatever, be it squats or arms, and you do 10 and you have a rest and you go, well, that was okay. And you have a minute break, you do another 10 and you go, that's okay. But after 10 sets, you're going, this is not okay. but it worked, and I did increase my muscle mass over a period of months. I did actually improve my muscle mass and gain muscle kilos, not my muscles weighed more within my weight.
Yes.
So I had lost a bit of fat, but I had increased my muscle. And that proved to be a real commitment. You had to make a real commitment to that, but I was prepared to try that at that stage. I'd been a member of a gym for a number of years, and so that was not an unfamiliar place to go to. So I was happy with that. So, and then of course I decided I wanted to do surgery, and surgery is a big journey, as we know. So I saw Dr. Naveen Samia, and I found that I was comfortable enough with him. I didn't do a lot of research of other people. I decided I didn't want to travel. And I mean, that's even harder currently, but I didn't want to travel. I was happy to work within Sydney, and Naveen had the reputation, and I had read a lot of confident testimonials about him. And so I was happy to do that. So I started the process of getting my head around doing this surgery. And a year later, here I am.
So now we get down to the really important thing.
Yes.
All of the different things that you did to get ready, because you didn't just go, oh, I'm having surgery and I'll do it one day and I'll have the surgery and I'll go home.
No, it's not. No, I like to call it tenderizing and marinating. That's how I've sort of explained it to people unfamiliar with what I'm going through. I had to tenderize and I had to marinate. So nutrition, and exercise, and then the I guess the adjunct treatments that are recommended for lipedema. So I bought myself a vibration plate. I got a mini tramp. I got compression. And I also got the what do we call it? The biocompression pants. And I started leasing those to start the tenderizing process, basically. So
the biocompression pants, it's a sequential pneumatic pump. So
yes. So initially
lymphatic drainage, and you get to use it at home in the comfort of your home.
So it replicated what you were able to do. So of course I was seeing you once a week, once a fortnight. I think I increased the visits as I got closer to the surgeries, and the combination of that, and then the other thing that made a huge difference in terms of not so much as an operation prep, but just as a lifestyle thing, was to be completely aware of what I was eating and how that impacted on it. So, and I think for me, the biggest change was being aware of sugars. I had been on a weight loss journey where I'd lost about 20 kilos before this. And in the process of doing that, I had reduced or eliminated wheat and most gluten products, although I was having farro, and which is sort of a wheat anyway, and spelt, which again is it's still a wheat and it's still gluten, but it's a more ancient and therefore slightly different to the wheat that we have today. And try to have brown rice or quinoa, which is even better because that's gluten-free too. And then I'd also, over the years, reduced my dairy intake. I still have normal cow's milk in my coffee or my cappuccino once a day. And I'm not opposed to having cheese, but I do steer clear of most cow cheeses, but I'll have some goat's cheese. Everybody's different, and that may or may not work for others. So I can't vouch for that for others, but that works for me. And then I really don't have many sugary foods, but I did notice that I had one night out with my husband and we had junk food and a couple of glasses of wine. And the next day it was like, boom, my legs were sore again. That ache came back during the night, and it was like, now I remember. Because it had been gone for so long that when it does come back, it's suddenly, someone explained it as if you get in the car in the morning, the volume's gone up. You think, how could the car be so loud? It wasn't. It's just that you've got into the car in a quiet headspace, and what seemed normal the night before is suddenly a shock. And it's the same with the pain. If it goes away, then it comes back. It's like even stronger, it seems. Maybe isn't. It's just your threshold has changed to tolerate it. And that's how it sort of happened for me.
That's a really good analogy.
Yeah. I thought that was a good explanation of why it's like, boom, it's come back. But it's probably what it always was. You just don't notice it when it's constant. So yeah.
So tell me now, you were really good with your compression in the lead.
I tried, yes. So the first ones that I got were the Bioflect. So I bought a couple of pairs of those, and clearly they were working because I'd get the mermaid print. As we all know, you get that print from the Bioflex because it's just working on the surface of your skin. So if you've got any inflammation or lymphedema or swelling, it's going to leave its mark on you, so you know it's doing good. So that, and as we got closer, the last 12 to 8 weeks prior to the surgery, I was wearing that all the time. So Dr. Samir encourages you to, especially in that sort of 12-week lead in, to really intensify your prep.
Yeah.
But even before that, I would wear the leggings or the tights just to get my head around the game of wearing them. Less attractive in the summertime, I confess. I can't do it in summertime, but yeah, so I was doing the compression, do 15 minutes on the vibration plate. I haven't used the trampoline as much as I thought I would, so it's become a redundant item in the back room, unfortunately, but it's an option available if I want to.
Yeah.
And I also got, I probably got more compression after the surgery as I needed to revise what I needed. I got some different products from the compression shop.
You also got pre-surgery, you got some Mobiderm.
You're right. See, you know everything, so you're reminding me. I've got my notes of what I did, but you've still got to prompt me. Yes, I did get the Mobiderm. I bought one leg at first, and then I thought, no, I'm too impatient, so I ended up getting another leg. They come in different sizes, so I've actually got 2 different sizes. I could have got the longer leg, but anyway, and they also work, so I would wear those overnight most of the time. It gets a bit awkward sometimes. You've got enough of your body taking up space, but then these big wraps around your legs. But having said that, they do the trick, because you can see in the morning, again, you've got the pock mark. So the Mobiderm is a bit like a giant bubble wrap made out of foam, and the impact of it, the residual effect of that is like having bubble wrap around your legs. So you get the pock marks of positive and negative pressure, which helps that flow as well. So yes, if there's been something, I've tried it, that's for sure. So
okay,
I've tried. I'm all in with this.
I think you have to be.
Yeah.
All right, so you got up to your first surgery.
Yes, wasn't that fun? Yeah, so, and it's such a funny, in the lead up, I haven't had to, thankfully, have any medical procedures or any interventions other than 3 babies. It all went relatively smoothly since I was about 6. So that was the last time I'd been in hospital for tonsils. So the thought of going to hospital was, quite a confronting thing in itself, because I don't need to do that. But as I went to the hospital, I was actually crying as I drove to the hospital. It was such a confronting experience to think you're finally facing up to this bloody disease, that you've tortured yourself with what's wrong with me, what have I done wrong, and the blame that goes with the fact that you are in this situation, and without having the knowledge to know why, it's all self-blame that you haven't looked after yourself. And all that emotional baggage was bubbling up as I drove to the surgery. And then I was in the prep at the op and talking to the nurse who was trying to tell me this is what's going to happen. And I'm just a blubbering mess. It's going, I'm really happy to be here, but it's just incredibly emotional to be there at that no turning back sort of situation. But afterwards, well, that was fun, as you know. So you rang me, or you sent me a message the day after the surgery to say how it's going. And I said, I'm fine the first day.
Yeah.
And then 2 days later, it literally hit the wall. So what happened was I had 12.5 litres removed. Because I hadn't been able to get my BMI under 30, I think Dr. Naveen thinks 30 is a good benchmark. And I mean, I know there's some flaws with BMIs and women in our situation, but it's a benchmark, because normally the surgery is 2 hours on your tummy, and then they flip you over and you do 2 hours on your back. So the reason that they like to have you under that benchmark is of the complications that can come up by lying on your tummy and you're breathing while you're under anaesthetic. So it's more about your safety under anaesthetic, that they use that as a point. So the solution, because I hadn't quite reached that point, he said, so what we'll do is we'll just keep you on your back for the whole 4 hours, and he'll just get whatever he can while I'm on my back. So I was fine with that. And afterwards, he was quite chuffed with what he'd achieved, as in 12.5 litres.
Do you want to tell us where he took from?
Yes. Okay. So he took my saddlebags. That was the first thing. And one thing I do value with Dr. Samir is that he asks you, what are your problems? What is it that bothers you? And he prioritises his list based on your concerns. Yeah. So I had my pre-op photo that he had taken, and he says, mark up what you want to go with. So I circled the saddlebags. That's got to go. We talked about my tummy, because my tummy also had some below my belly button, had it. And then my knees. And I had the fat pads under my kneecaps. So I had 2 significant knee pads. So we worked on those. So what he did was he took 12.5 litres from my tummy, my saddlebags, and my inner and outer thighs down to my knees, and then the fat pads under my knees. So that was the places that he went to. He takes little holes that I think it's 1 or 2 stitches per hole. And I probably had about 15 of those scattered, or 16 if you're even, but all on my sides and my tummy. So I think there was three or five on my stomach, down to my undies line, and the rest on my legs. So we were happy with how the surgery went. I felt reasonably okay. The drugs were excellent. Yeah, that's right. So I had the pump morphine or whatever it is that you get, the strong stuff, and all was going well. The biggest problem at that stage was I couldn't go to the toilet. Not that I couldn't fit, I could get myself to the bathroom, but I didn't need to. And that's not good. So you need to be able to evacuate everything. And because that wasn't working for me, they kept me in overnight, an extra night. So I was meant to go home after a day, but I stayed another day. And then that went on and couldn't go properly the second day and the third day. So in the end, they had to give me a catheter to make the bladder work. And they were happy with that. But then I started to feel sicker. And what had happened, unbeknownst to all of us, was that I'd started bleeding internally. And that meant that when, I think it was the Thursday morning by this stage, I was just woken up and I got out of bed. I wasn't feeling right. I'm thinking, oh, probably a bit low sugar. I'll have some juice. I had some juice nearby. And I'm walking around and I just started feeling worse and worse. And what I hadn't noticed was that I was breathless while I was talking, or couldn't eat very much without being breathless. And next thing, a nurse walked in. I said, I really feel terrible. And next thing, I collapsed. So the bells started ringing. People turned up from everywhere. We had the entire contingent of medical staff that's available. So it was like a red alert type, one of those big emergencies, and people appeared from everywhere. And they checked my sugar, and it turns out the problem was that I had lost a lot of blood. My iron levels were really low, which is why I was breathless. Apparently that's one of the symptoms or the signs of breathlessness. My iron count was almost negligible. And yes, so 3 blood transfusions later, transfer via an ambulance to an ICU at Lakeview, or from Lakeview to Norwest, where they have an ICU. And I was fine after that. So that was 8 days later.
Now,
so,
we have to say here that this is not a normal reaction.
Absolutely not. This is not normal whatsoever. And we were all, the doctors were shocked. They were looking for if I had some sort of, I suppose, bleeding disorder or something that had undiscovered, given my low medical intervention rate so far. So I think in the end, we had a significant number of things went wrong all at once. I know that everyone talks about day 4 or 5 or 6, I think is usually your worst day. But that's meant to be when you're at home and you just feel crap. My day 4, 5 and 6 were a little bit more dramatic, but outcome, it just, obviously that slowed my recovery down. But the only other thing then, after I left hospital, I went and saw my GP just to fill him in on, tell him about what had happened. He sent me off for some blood tests to keep an eye on things, because so many things had happened. And in that initial testing that he did, my liver count, I think it would be, was really wrong and off. So not that I was doing anything particular, we couldn't pinpoint anything in particular that would have contributed to that. I've since heard that maybe just the drama was enough to get your whole chemical balance out of whack, and therefore it affects your liver too. A test a week later showed, so 2 weeks after the surgery, showed that everything was back to normal. So crisis averted, but we just sort of had to keep an eye on things. But drama. But
even with all the drama,
yes.
How quickly were you going, I could do this again?
Well, I was saying, I mean, we saw Naveen 2 weeks after the surgery. He likes to see you a week after you leave hospital, so that meant 2 weeks. And it's like, well, nothing else is happening this year because this was July last year. I said, I won't go through that again. I won't put the family through it. I won't put me through it. And then I went back and saw him another follow-up. Well, that was July, so we're talking probably by September I saw him again, and we talked about my arms. And so I went, okay. He said the arms will be fine. It's not a biggie. And I must say, I think the arms for me, I didn't have significant lipedema symptoms. I had the big baggy arms and the flappy crap that you can't deal with, but I didn't have the pain and the discomfort that I know a lot of women may suffer from with their arms. But I thought, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to do the lot, and the less that's in me, the less hopefully that will going forward have an impact on me. So I signed up for my arms. So end of October I did my arms, and we also did a lot more pre-op prep for that.
So, and what was that like?
Well, from Dr. Samia's point of view, he just did extra blood tests. So there's some other tests that he wanted to make sure there were no nasty surprises, which came back negative. So that was good to know. So I don't have any undiagnosed issues in that sense that could complicate things. So we were fairly comfortable to go forward with that. And then it was back onto vibration, trying to make sure when I was on the platform, I'd make sure that my arms, I'd put hands on my knees. So that meant my arms would shake a bit more and just rustle things up a bit. Started to get some more compression for arms, and then just focus on the diet and, you know, lifestyle things that you can manage. And then around the same time, I also organised the compression for my arms with MediRent. So I got an arm bag to put into my pump machine so that I could do my arms in the post-op recovery stage.
Great.
So that was
can I point out that you've kind of taken shares out at Garnet Medical?
I believe I might even own half the shop now, the amount of stuff I bought there. So priority. I should have a frequent buyer's card or something there.
That's the Sigvaris range. So I think you have every set of stockings.
I think I've certainly got a nice range, I must say. I'm fortunate that I don't live far away from the Sigvaris shop, so that does make access easier. And they've been great with coming in, and they will measure you while you're there, and they've opened up for me so I could go there before work and whatever. So they've been wonderful, very supportive, very knowledgeable, and it's a very painless process to just go in there. And I mean, it's confronting to have someone have to measure you up, and that in some, you know, you don't choose to do that normally, but given that they're very familiar with the process, the condition they're also familiar with. So it's not just for lymphedema, not just post-cancer treatment. They're aware of the condition, and they're aware of the support that they need to give, and they've been great.
Fantastic.
Yes.
So were the arms a completely different surgery?
Absolutely. It's like, oh, that was easy. Now I know what they're talking about. So I just had the one night in hospital for that one. Way less complicated. The process was very simple. The difference in my arms was almost immediate. There was obviously swelling up again before it goes up, before it goes down. But within a couple of weeks, I only had 2 weeks off work for that one. And I maybe milked 1 or 2 of those days. I don't know. But,
what volume did he remove?
2.5 litres from my arms. And I'm more than happy with that. I think having done my arms, it's like now everything's in alignment, if you know what I mean. So like I say, it certainly helped finish the picture off for me anyway. For my situation, it was the right thing to do. And then I just had the third one hanging over my head as to when.
And how did that one go?
And I now know what they talk about when they say this is how it's meant to go. I did ask for 2 nights in hospital rather than just one overnight stay. And I think that was good for my family's sake as well as my sake. It's just a bit of R&R to get your head in the game again, get familiar with how your body's responding and moving, because what I found after the first surgery, as I reduced the swelling and sort of saw what I was left with, is that I'm walking differently now.
Yeah.
So because my legs and the gap between my legs is obviously less, my feet walk in alignment more. And so I don't have as much I'd like to think I don't have the waddle anymore that we all start to develop. And that strain that places on your back and your hips and your knees, I find now I can walk one foot almost directly aligned together. So, the walking after the surgery on each occasion, you just got to get familiar with what your body can do again. And sitting and moving this time. So this time I had the tops of my legs done and the backs of my legs up to my bum. So that was a new world of pain and discomfort because you can't avoid it. And even though it was very complicated the first time, at least I had a bit of a clear space behind me to sit on. This time, no chance. But it has gone remarkably well and I'm feeling really good.
This time?
Another 8 litres. So I basically could look at a blue chlorine container, which is 25 litres.
Wow.
And say I pretty much filled up one of those chlorine containers of gunk. I know.
Unreal.
I call it gunk because it's not real stuff and it's horrible and it's toxic crap. So yeah, so I just look at a jerry can or a chlorine pool container and go, that's what I've done, is all of that out of me, which is just amazing and really, really good. Yes.
4 weeks on.
Yes.
How are you feeling?
Excellent. So totally different experience this time, but I did have the dip day 4 to 6. I did dip again, but at least, and I probably didn't even notice at the time that was what I was doing. I nearly fainted after my first shower. I was very ambitious and decided I needed to wash my hair. Big mistake. I shouldn't have done that. Just was too much to do at once, but I thought I was fine until I was 3/4 of the way through the shower and thought, oh, this is not going to end well. But we got through it and got back to lie down before it all went pear-shaped. So that was good. I had to have a shower. You should make the point, you've got to stay in your compression. You don't take it off for the first 7 days at least. And so when you have a shower, you need to blow dry it straight away with your hair dryer or something so that the wounds aren't staying damp underneath. Yeah. So I did that. But and then I think on the Saturday after the surgery, I didn't feel as good as I'd like. And I thought it was probably low blood pressure because it had been low while I was in hospital. That's obviously my thing, is low blood pressure. So I went to my local chemist to check it out. And I think I started to just get really tired and faded and couldn't concentrate and probably stayed out a bit too long that day, but got through that, had a few salt drinks to help my blood pressure go back up. It was definitely too low. It was 93 on 70 or 60 or something like that. So not good. Lay down and rest and it was all okay. And it's just improved gradually. And I had 3 weeks off work. But I must say the last week was a mental holiday, if nothing else.
I won't tell them.
No, don't tell him. Okay, it's our family business, but shush. But it was certainly a mental holiday. But going back to work, I've been back at work now a week and a half. It's tiring. So there's no kidding. You need as much as you can take off, you take off. And couldn't have done it without the support of my family, because the meals have to turn up, the washing gets done, everything's looked after, and I just point and shoot, and they all did remarkably well, and my daughter especially.
And for a couple of weeks you get chauffeured.
Yes, and she was my driver, so she was on uni holidays, so that was sort of fortuitous, but she was great. So yes, between her and my husband, I was looked after really, really well, so that helps too. Yes,
It really does.
So it's going well.
So overall, thrilled?
Absolutely delighted. I can't explain enough the feeling of being able to go into regular shops, buy some clothes, and of course you need a new wardrobe to celebrate the new bod, so it has to happen. I'm probably 1 to 2 sizes less. I don't hang over chairs like I used to. We all sit on chairs, and you're not quite sitting. There's more of you than there is of chair. Yeah. Not anymore. I don't have the saddlebags. I've got nice, straight, whatever you want to call it, but it's one curve, not lots of curves. Yeah. So I'm really happy, and everyone's starting to notice now that my shape has changed. I look like I've lost weight, and well, it was always I had lost weight, but the kilos don't translate to the litres. So it's not going to say, even though I've 23 or something litres, there's no way I've lost 23 kilos. I would say 8 kilos maybe overall is what I've done. There might be a few more kilos still to come as the swelling continues to go down. I've still got some hard bits. My legs still swell up as the day goes on, but yeah, everything is excellent. Everything is excellent about it. So yes, wonderful.
Anything else you want to say?
There is lots that one can do for it, but everyone has to make their choices. Not everyone is in a position to do the surgery. I understand that. Yeah. But and even if you are, you may only want to do 1 or 2, but target the worst area. If all you can do is 1 surgery, 1 will make a difference. If you target the area that are of biggest concern to you, and then if you only do the 1, then you'll still be better off than having done none. If you can do all of them, you do, but go for it. And if you can't do that, at least look after yourself with the other all the other conservative treatments. Yes, absolutely. And there you go. Yes.
Well, thank you so much.
Oh, my pleasure. My pleasure.
A lot of women who are wondering what it takes.
Yes. Yes.
And it's important to point out that there's a lot of prep that goes in beforehand.
Yes, absolutely. You can't just rock up on the day and say, now take this crap out, because if you don't do that prep, then he's not going to get as much out. I'd like to think that the efforts that I did helped make it more successful for him to do what he does. Yeah. And then there's the shrink, you've still got to look after yourself afterwards too, because you have to wear the compression to help your skin retract. And the more retraction you get, then the less complications from loose skin that you might get going forward. And so far, that's worked for me. I will never be the beach queen or the bikini queen, but I'm fine with that. I'm just happy that, I can, there's a bit less of me, but it's also the health benefits of it. And I do feel different, and I feel very positive and excited by the success of it all. Yeah.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much.
My pleasure. My pleasure.
All this time.
That's fine. I've loved it.
Release you now. And
thank you. Thank you. All right. Lovely to talk to you. Thanks so much.
Thanks,
okay. Bye.